the desk is actually doing the work.
That's right.
I just show up and do the
Christine, can you look at this side?
We also get to see. Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much for doing all this.
Thank you.
Oh,
Great, thank you.
hello, everybody. Here we go.
Come on, girl. We gotta go
Okay, I'm
in.
coming. I'm coming. I'm Christine.
Card-carrying liberal, and your MC for tonight. Welcome, Mr. Ignatieff, to the Trinity Spadina riding, the heart of Chinatown, and a very diverse community. And thank you for visiting us. We know you've been very busy crisscrossing Canada, reaching out to neighborhoods, bringing the message of the Liberal platform to each and every one of us. And we all know we want change in the next election. We want the Liberal Party to be once again to be the party of Canada. Now, I would like all of you to rise for the national anthem, and I would like to welcome Mr. James McLean, well-known tenor, who lives in this riding, a staunch Liberal, I must say, and thrilled to sing O Canada for us. James.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Isn't that wonderful? Thank you, James. Thank you so much. Now, we would like Mr. Ignatieff to settle down a little bit and enjoy the cuisine of this restaurant. And before we will introduce him to bring the Liberal platform to all of you. So this is good news. Dinner is served. Thank you. We have over 300 of you coming out. I know all of you are busy, but this is a very special night where he is coming to Trinity Spadina and visiting all of us. And I would like to take this opportunity to also acknowledge some of the Liberal MPs that's been on the bus and here tonight. And if your name is called, please stand up and be recognized. Miss Carolyn Bennett, St. Paul's Riding. John McCullum, Markham Univille. Ken Dryden, York Centre. Maria Nina, Regis East York. Yasmin Mackenzie, Don Valley East. Gerard Kennedy, York Parkdale High Park. Christy Duncan, Etobicoke North. Bonnie Crombie, Mississauga Streetville. Rob Oliphant, Don Valley West. And of course our former Metro Chair, Alan Tongs, York Southwestern. And we also have a Liberal candidate from Thornhill, Karen Mock. Welcome all of you to this Liberal Party. Now, also putting together this 300 guests together is no small task within shorter than 2 weeks. And of course, the person that's heading up this task is Christine Innes. Liberal candidate of Trinity Spadina. And we would like her to represent us in the next election. And of course, behind her, there are lots of people that have helped to put it together. And of course, Julia Matus, President of Trinity Spadina Riding, President. Julia. Mary Gagliardi. Mary didn't sleep for days. Just trying to put all the work. Mary, stand up. Be recognized. And also Greg Wong. Greg, where are you? And of course, many, many volunteers that have helped out. And please give them a round of applause. Now, I would like to introduce Christine Innes, our Liberal candidate, who would come up and say a few words and also introduce the leader to us. Thank you. Christine?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm really honored and I'm delighted that we're all here to support our leader, Michael Ignatieff, the next Prime Minister of Canada. Before I continue, I want to do a quick thank you to Sharifa for her work both in MCing and all the other things she does behind the scenes. And there was one candidate here this evening as well from Kitchener, Karen Redmond, who also should be acknowledged. Good evening, and thank you all for joining us to welcome the Liberal Express. Many of you have heard me joke, a bit tirelessly, but all roads lead to Trinity Spadina. It's no surprise the bus is out front. What you don't know is how much time Michael and Susanna kindly spent in Trinity Spadina today on College Street in front of the Chin Building, on Little Italy, a little Caravana dance down on Queen Street West. It's pretty good.
Not so good.
No, I checked with the Caravana Queen afterwards. She was very impressed. So thank you, Michael and Susanna, for sharing so much of your time with us today. I'd also like to thank members of our Chinese community here and our team of volunteers for putting this event together. Thank you very, very much. Trinity Spadina has it all. We have Chinatown, Little Italy, Portugal Village, 3 major universities, top hospitals, medical innovation, the heart of Canada's arts community, the financial hub of the country, Caravana, and that great agricultural tradition, the Royal Winter Fair. It's an exciting and very Canadian riding in its diversity, in its challenges, and in its opportunity. It's a riding that particularly needs the vision and inclusive approach of the Liberal Party and of Michael Ignatieff. The challenge of being in opposition is making the case for change. In the case of Stephen Harper's Conservatives, it's getting easier. The flip side, though, is showing why the Liberal Party is the right choice for government. In Trinity Spadina, we have a choice between the NDP, a party of protest, rhetoric, and opportunism, and ourselves, a party of vision, experience, and competence. Trinity Spadina deserves a representative who can answer, not just ask questions, and someone who understands that more is achieved by consensus than by creating division. There is clearly a need for change. There's a need for the Liberal Party and a need for Michael Ignatieff, a leader with unique and varied experience that can lead Canada to a much better and brighter future. This is a man who can sit comfortably in any environment. The United Nations, classrooms of top universities around the world, behind the pen of some of our most insightful historical and social commentary of our times, behind a journalist's microphone asking questions, in Parliament asking even tougher and more important questions, and in our backyards, our banquet halls, our soccer fields, our homes, sharing a coffee or a beer, and a conversation, an unscripted conversation about the topics of our choosing and the topics that matter to all of you. Conservatives somehow try to tell us that Michael's out of touch. In my view, it's hard to imagine a person more in touch. Michael's as Canadian as they come. He understands the varied fabric of our country, its sweeping history and landscapes, the potential of its people, its place in the world both from within our borders and from the perspective of others. He's a loving husband and a parent. He's someone that understands family, community, and compassion are integral to Canada's future. There's more than a little irony in my view that we desire the best and the brightest to lead our country. Then he is subjected to the dumbing down of politics by the other parties. The Liberal Party, Michael Ignatieff, is different. Stephen Harper only consults himself. Michael, sounds like there's some agreement to that suggestion. Michael consulted not only the top minds of our country, but thousands of people just like us at a conference in Montreal earlier this year. Stephen Harper only speaks in controlled, safe environments. He attacks those who disagree with him. Michael brings together and respects people from all walks of life. So tonight, we are very pleased here in Trinity Spadina to have Michael and Susanna here with us to share the Liberal vision for Canada. So I ask you to please welcome me in joining journalist, author, teacher, parent, husband, friend, and leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, the Honourable Michael Ignatieff.
Thank you so much, Christine. I was very touched to be introduced as a husband. I do have my beloved Susanna with me today, and if you're married to me, you have difficult moments. And she had a very difficult moment this afternoon when, in front of Queen Street, in front of much music, the Carabana Queen asked to dance with me. Susanna looked skywards, didn't know what to do, and just watched me make a damn fool of myself for about 10 minutes. She tried to stop me, but I didn't listen. But the Carabana Queen was very generous, I might add. I don't think I have much future in dancing, but I sure hope I got a future in the leadership of this party. I want to say that there are many things that unite us tonight. Our love of our party, our love of our country, and our love of Chinese food. I mean that in all seriousness. I want to thank all the wonderful people who've put the meal on tonight. I want to thank them for their hospitality and kindness to us. I want to thank all the people who've served. I want to thank all the people in the kitchen who work without recognition. And in a larger sense, if you'll allow me, I want to thank the Chinese community for the incredible contribution that they make to our stomachs. It's just a wonderful thing. And it's much more than to our stomachs. Many members of the Chinese community have been in this country for 5, 6 generations, much longer than the Ignatieffs. The Chinese community built this country, rail by rail. They knew persecution, they knew discrimination, they knew exclusion from the vote. We don't forget those things. We remember with enormous gratitude how much our country has been made stronger for more than 100 years now by the contribution from a truly great civilization. And I know that there are many people in this room not of the Chinese community, but I think we ought to all acknowledge the immense contribution of the Chinese community. I want to make, we have paid tributes to some of the great members of my Liberal team, our Liberal team. In some contrast to Mr. Harper, I know about team sports. I like team sports. I like teams. I like playing with a team. I like leading a team. I like being inspired by a team. And I thank my team for being on the road with me and the Liberal Express. Thank you, everyone. But I did want to pay special tribute for just a minute to some of the leaders of the Chinese community. I was privileged to be seated beside a man who commands the universal respect not only of the Chinese community, but of every Canadian, Hugh Zhang, and I just want to signal his enormous role. I want to thank Greg Wong, who's always there. Greg, thank you so much for your contribution. I want to thank Alice and Bob Wong, who've just been telling me about their recent holiday. It made me feel kind of, just for a second, that I wanted to get off the Liberal Express. Because it sounded like such fun, but we salute your contribution to the public life of our country. And thank you both. Thank you both so much. I want to thank, obviously, Sharifa Khan for keeping this show on the rails here. Thank you, Sharifa. But I also want to thank Ping Tan, who's here, and thank him for his leadership and his role. We ought to salute these leaders of the Chinese community in Canada. There you are. Sir, great to have you. I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about going to China. I thought you'd be interested. It's an important way of distinguishing my vision of the country from Mr. Harper's. I was privileged to go to Beijing and Shanghai with members of my Liberal team. And we were received at the very highest level by representatives of the Politburo of the country, business leaders. And they all said a couple of things. They said Canada was missing for 4 years. Canada was missing. Under Mr. Harper's leadership, for at least almost 4 years, Canada was missing. And all of them said another thing. They said the person in Canada who understood China best, who worked hardest to build bridges between Canada and China, who came back again and again, who invested his personal prestige and his personal authority in that relationship and built it into something really strong, was Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. Everywhere I went, they remembered Pierre Trudeau. They remembered and respected Mr. Martin. But of all the people they singled out, Jean Chrétien was the one they remembered with the deepest personal affection. Relations between countries are always relationships between people. Jean Chrétien understood that. Jean Chrétien built a relationship. That's the kind of relationship I would like to build with China if I have the privilege to be chosen to be the Prime Minister of the country. We should be immensely proud of the liberal tradition here. This is where the liberal tradition shows what it is. A sustained commitment from Pierre Trudeau onwards to build and open doors to a society that is going to make and define the history of the 21st century. A society that is not rising, but re-rising, re-emerging again to be what it's always been. One of the greatest civilizations in the world, and now the motor of world history. When Susanna and I are walking along the Bund in Shanghai on Sunday morning and watching men flying kites and women walking backwards doing their exercise, and groups of people doing their exercises, these very slow, beautiful moments, you feel the beauty of a civilization. You see its individuality. You see its imaginative power, and you cannot escape having one emotion, which is being thrilled by what you see, being thrilled by the greatness of a civilization that has known moments of torment, moments of civil war, moments of violence, and yet has now gone through 30 years of the most sustained economic growth in its history. Of course, there are disagreements between Canada and China. And every leader has to be frank about this. Our party is not only the party of opening doors to China, we are also the party of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We have a deep affection and understanding of the importance of individual rights, religious freedom, language freedom, cultural freedom. We have a deep understanding of how important it is to bring minorities in, to rule with fairness and justice across vast spaces. We have many things that we understand in Canada, of which we have great pride, and there's no point pulling our punches. We should be direct. We should be frank. We're a small country compared to China in terms of population. The entire population of Canada could fit into one Chinese city. And they often tell you that, just so you don't forget. And why shouldn't they? But we can be proud of being Canadian. We can be forthright. I had very forthright discussions with senior Chinese leadership. I said, on my bus, I didn't say that because it hadn't quite happened, but on my bus, there are 4 25-year-olds who are uplifting every speech of mine, including all my mistakes, onto the internet. All the pictures go up on the internet. They can be seen in China. They can be seen around the world. That's the world we live in. The Liberal Express is not just traveling across Canada, it's traveling across the world, because that's the world we live in. No politics is purely national. Nobody can be kept within the confines of any particular country anymore. This is a lesson China must understand. This is a lesson that is simply one of the facts of life. So when I talked to Chinese leadership, I said that very clearly to them. Internet censorship has no future. You can try, but it won't work. Guess what? They disagree. That's what happens between friends who speak frankly. They disagree. I said what I thought. They said, you don't understand our history. You don't understand how divisive, how conflict-ridden our history has been. You have to understand how difficult it is to govern over 1 billion people. So the conversation was very direct. It was very frank. But it was based on friendship. It was based on respect. And it was based on a sense that there is so much that we can do together. It was based on something which we all understand in this room probably better than any other room in Canada. The bridges between Canada and China are in this room. The mastery of the language and civilizations of China are in this room. It gives us an enormous advantage as a country that we have bridges who are our fellow citizens. People who live in the Canadian reality, the Chinese reality, go back and forth and are the bridges to create an extremely bright future. One of the things that's clouding that future are recent remarks by the head of our intelligence service, which cast aspersions on this community, on Chinese Canadians, and on the Chinese government. This is not the way to build a productive relationship. Some of those remarks were repeated again today by a Conservative Member of Parliament. This is not helpful. We have to build a relationship based on directness, on frankness, and casting aspersion, casting suspicion on any community, as the head of Canadian intelligence recently did, does no good in Canada, definitely does no good in China. So we have a lot of work to do as Liberals to rebuild one of the crucial relationships that will define our future. Every Canadian knows where history is going to be made in the 21st century. It's going to be made in Asia. We are an Asia-Pacific country. We have to understand that. Sometimes people understand that better in Vancouver than they do in Toronto. But everybody in this room understands. And this will change who we are. I grew up in a country that was oriented across the North Atlantic. Our relationship with Europe was crucial when I was a little boy. And then it became the relationship with the United States. And all of the axis of our identity was defined by these relationships. And now it's changed. And now we're in a new world where both China and India will define the kind of economic future and also the cultural world in which the young children in this room will grow up. So when you think about what political leadership is, it's about looking over the next hill, and the next hill, and the next hill beyond it, to see where our future will be defined and shaped. And when I was in Shanghai and Beijing, I had a strong feeling as a proud Canadian that this would be one of the places where the future of my children and grandchildren would be shaped. And we needed leadership large enough, big enough in imagination, big enough in vision to seize these opportunities. Not with photo ops, not by shutting down a city for 72 hours creating a fake lake, not by wasting $1 billion of taxpayers' money, but by the patient, visionary work of engagement and dialogue and frankness and directness and courage and truth that was marked by the traditions initiated by Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin. This is the tradition I have the honor to inherit. This is the tradition that every member of this caucus has the honor to inherit. This is the tradition that Christine Ennis will raise proud in Trinity Spadina. This is the tradition that we must defend and fight for in the next election. And we are faced with a government that shuts down Parliament when it doesn't like the questions which the opposition is asking, which is decided to put in question pay equity and the promotion of minorities in the public service, that has decided that it will fire public servants who disagree and harass whistleblowers who stand up and speak the truth. We've got a government that most recently and most astonishingly decided they didn't like the census. And this lays bare what this government is really all about. You choose ignorance instead of knowledge. You choose ideology in place of fact. You'd rather know less about Canada than more, especially if it disagrees with your prejudices. You'd want to get government out of almost everything. The way to do that is to make Canadians believe there are no problems in Canada. One of the ways you do that is you don't ask Canadians any questions anymore. So you no longer know who's unemployed, who's a single-parent family, who can't get access to services in the language of their choice. If you stop asking census questions, you stop knowing what a government is for. And then, when someone stands up in the public service of Canada and says, "This is crazy," the only thing honorably that he can do is to resign. And then what you do is you say, this is about invasions of privacy. You try and make this a wedge issue in which you make every Canadian suspect that they're going to invade your privacy. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Statistics Canada has one of the best reputations in the world for protecting your privacy. And if your privacy was ever threatened, this party that I fight for would defend your freedom every step of the way. But you know it's not a threat. So this is what you get when a government chooses ideology instead of reason, chooses division instead of unity, chooses manipulation instead of persuasion. Persuasion is important to me. I'm doing 5 events a day in 10 provinces and 3 territories because I think we can do politics differently. I'm trying to talk to you, whether you're liberals or not liberals, as fellow citizens who deserve straight answers to straight questions, who have to be persuaded to vote for us. We're not going to vote for us simply because they used to vote for us, because they like the color red. No, because they want to believe in a better vision of Canada, where every Canadian child has early learning and childcare if they need it, where every Canadian child gets an equal opportunity to share in the Canadian dream, and no Canadian child is excluded from the promise of Canadian hope and happiness, where every Canadian gets access to a good quality education. Where every Canadian can go into retirement secure in the sense that they'll be able to retire in dignity and be treated with respect. And a Canada where when you go overseas, when you travel abroad with your passport, the people who greet you are happy to see you because they think Canada is the greatest country in the world. We need a politics in which we say to every Canadian, come into the big red tent, the big red tent at the center of Canadian life. If you're a conservative and you're wondering where the progressive, compassionate values that used to be in conservative have gone, come into the big red tent. If you're in the NDP and you're tired, as Christine said, of voting for a party that can protest but never govern at the federal level, come into the big red tent. If you want to preserve the environment for future generations, there's only one vote in the next election, and it's voting in the big red tent with us. And if you want a party that believes in fiscal responsibility, that will not shut down a city, will not waste $1.3 billion on a photo opportunity, will not throw away money on a $17 billion fighter jet whose use has not been proved and whose necessity has not been demonstrated. If you want a party that really cares and really understands that the money that pays for public programs comes out of this gentleman's pocket and comes out of my pocket and comes out of your pocket, and we owe you an account for every dime, you got to vote in the big red tent at the center of Canadian life. So I'm getting started, and I want to talk for another 2 hours, but you'll be very relieved to know that my wife is here. She prevents the worst from happening. And so I want to say, again, repeat just a few things here. Christine Innes is a wonderful candidate, a committed, devoted, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's devoted to public service. She's been a Liberal forever. She commands the respect of everybody in this room. But she is not going to be elected. This is going to be a dogfight. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. This is a battle. This is a battle. We got to fight here. We're not going to win it sitting around. We're not going to win it having delicious Chinese meals. We're going to have to work. And you know what that means. You're going to have to go up and down the street with Christine. You're going to have to knock on doors. You're going to have to talk to your neighbor. You're going to have to talk to that cranky conservative down the end of the vote who just might be able to come over. You're going to talk to that NDP voter who's tired of Olivia Chow and all that nonsense. And tired of I talk about the politics of persuasion, but we've got to have the politics of hard work, and we've got to have the politics of preaching to the unconverted. Liberals talk too much to liberals. It's time to talk to other people. Reach out. Come on in to the big red tent. Come on into the center of Canadian politics, because Stephen Harper's walked away from the center. He's going to the right. Jack Layton's going to the left. We need to reclaim, we need to own the center, give Canada compassionate, responsible government. The only way to do that in Trinity Spadina is elect Christine Innes as the next Member of Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our leader, Mr. Michael Ignatieff. Now it's my pleasure now to call upon Mr. Hughes Ng, our community leader, who will be coming up here to make a special presentation to Mr. Michael Ignatieff. And I would like to call on the stage also Bob Wong, Mr. Herbert Jang, and Francis Yuen. Here and present this to our leader, which is hung up the scroll here, and the Chinese lighting. So I would like to interpret this philosophical slogan, which is actually a message from you to the audience here and also all the community at large. So this wordings means this world belongs to the public. Me, you, him, and her. Regardless of color, of your skin, your place of birth, or your religion or age. I would work on this political path in the coming years and hope that I will have your blessing and support. And sincerely, thank you for all your support, Michael Ignatieff. Yip Lai Ting.
All I'd like to say is that Yip Lai Ting would like to thank you from the bottom of his heart. Thank you so much.
Now, Mr. Hughes Ng is going also to present you with this beautiful red Chinese jacket and wishing you the best of luck. And of course, red is a lucky color in the Chinese tradition. And to wear it not just for Chinese New Year, but all the time. And also, Mr. Hughes presented to you also a special crafted Chinese stamp for you and seal, and with the name Yip on it. Take a picture.
Christine. Hey David, did you after you finish?
Where you have an opportunity to meet and greet him, and also he will be able to answer any questions that you have. And he's wearing the jacket to go around.
Aaron, I didn't get any. I got a little soup. I'm not complaining, but I can tell you there's a particular form of torment usually not experienced by anybody else but a politician. In this great restaurant, I kept looking at food that I could not eat, and that other people were eating that I wanted to eat. You feel my pain, I'm sure. But that's
We'll welcome you back for dinner.
yeah.
We'll feed you next
Okay,
time.
where's the
Wonderful food.
Where's the young girl? Where's the young liberal?
Hey, Eric. Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you have any follow-up comments to what you alluded to in your speech about Rob Anders and his comments about earlier?
I'm not going to dignify those with extended comment, but according to what has been reported, it's a remark that's not helpful, let's put it that way, to good relations between China and Canada. I'll just leave it at that. I've already made comments about the remarks by the CSIS director. It's unprofessional, this is what it is. These are professional relations between two great countries. And the Chinese are entitled to be treated with respect, number one. Number two, the Chinese community in Canada and politicians of Chinese origin in Canada, etc., are entitled to be treated with respect. Some of the comments made in the last month, especially on the eve of President Hu Jintao's visit, were not constructive, that's all. I mean, and if you're running a serious relationship with a serious country, you don't say those kind of things. I mean, it's clear, as I've said in the last said tonight, in private discussions with Chinese leaders, there are a number of things that need to be raised directly and fairly, and always will be by a liberal government. But this was, as my mother used to say, it's bush league. It's not serious. And we're a serious country, they're a serious country, our relationship should be serious and professional. More questions? No?
In the whole, your popularity is not really high. What do you think is the reason behind that, and what do you do to make that?
Well, it didn't seem too bad in there.
Or people just need to meet them.
People seem happy to see me. I've had a very good 2 or 3 weeks. I find that when I get the message out, when I talk to Canadians and they see what I look like, I don't think I'm too bad. I got a lot of work to do.
So why you wouldn't play it better?
The key thing here is to earn it. The key word here is to earn it. To persuade Canadians that there's a better alternative to Stephen Harper. I think there is. The Liberal Party believes there is. The people in that room believe there is. And that's what we have to persuade Canadians. The word persuasion is very important. To persuade people one by one. Every time you shake a hand, every time you meet somebody, you're trying to persuade them there's a better alternative. That's my job. That's what I'm doing. And I'm having a very good time doing it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. It's very good.
I have a question as well. So,
Quickly, one, and then I got to go because I got a week. You see, I didn't get anything.
okay, so
Except soup.
yeah, okay. I come from India, and I provide for newcomers and new Canadians. So I want to know, I want to ask you a question. What kind of word you want to say to the new Canadians and who just get into this political environment? So what's the difference with liberal and conservative? So what kind of
I
word?
think the most important thing of all is not actually the difference between liberals and conservatives. I believe that there is a clear difference. Much more important than that for newcomers is that newcomers believe in our political system and that they participate and vote. Many newcomers, especially from China and other countries, are reluctant to vote because they don't trust our democratic system. So what I'm saying is, I'd like you to vote for me, but whatever you do, vote, participate, join a political party, come to a meeting. That's what matters, because we want to welcome newcomers into our country as citizens, and the first thing a citizen does is vote. And that's the most important message for newcomers. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.